TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Russia is evidently frustrated with Israel's alleged strikes against Iranian-linked targets, which are situated on Syrian soil. Israel and Syria reportedly hold a meeting under Russian auspices. Germany voices hope that Turkish-Greek exploratory talks will ultimately lead to the improvement of ties between Ankara and the European Union. Russia is evidently frustrated with Israel's alleged strikes against Iranian-linked targets, which are situated on Syrian soil. In spite of a closely maintained coordination mechanism between the Russian and Israeli militaries to ensure deconfliction in Syria, Moscow's top diplomat, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, voiced caution over prospects of an Israeli-Iranian war from occurring on Syrian soil, which would then consequently further threaten the stability of the war-torn country and its Russian-backed Damascus regime. Instead, Minister Lavrov reiterated a call upon Jerusalem to increase Russia's involvement in addressing the threats posed to Israel's national security emanating from its northern neighbor.
Если Израиль, как они говорят, вынужден реагировать на угрозы своей израильской безопасности, которые проистекают с сирийской территории, то мы израильским нашим коллегам много раз говорили, если вы видите такие угрозы, пожалуйста, передайте нам соответствующую информацию.
The Russian foreign minister went on to relay a direct message to the Israeli leadership, pledging to act against anyone threatening the Jewish state from Syrian soil, if only Jerusalem would share its information with Moscow.
Дорогие израильские коллеги, если у вас есть факты о том, что с какой-то части сирийской территории проистекает угроза вашему государству, срочно сообщайте нам эти факты, мы примем все меры, чтобы эта угроза была нейтрализована.
It is interesting to mention that the comments by Moscow's top diplomat came amid reports on a Russian-sponsored meeting that was held between Israeli and Syrian officials, which took place at Russia's Hammeim Air Force Base in western Syria. The report, which was first published by the Jusur for Studies Institute, the meeting sought to tackle several issues of contention, including Israel's demand to have the Islamic Republic of Iran and its proxies withdraw from Syria. However, it is important to highlight that TV7 was unable to corroborate this report, and while Israeli authorities naturally stopped short from commenting, the Syrian regime in Damascus vehemently rejected that any such meeting ever took place. Turning to the Turkish capital Ankara, where Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu hosted his German counterpart Heiko Maas for both bilateral talks and discussions on Ankara's aspirations to improve its ties with the European Union. In a joint press conference, Turkey's top diplomat started by highlighting the deep connection between Ankara and Berlin.
Özellikle Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımız Erdoğan'la Şansölye Merkel'in arasındaki sıkı diyalog ve dostluk, aynı şekilde Heiko Maas'la bizim sürekli temas halinde olmamız, ilgili kurum ve bakanlıklarımızın yakın işbirliği içinde çalışması sayesinde ikili ilişkilerimiz her alanda daha iyiye gidiyor. Ve ticaret hacmimiz pandemiye rağmen yaklaşık 38 milyar dolar oldu.
The German foreign minister, for his part, voiced Berlin's deep appreciation of its counterparts in Ankara in all that pertains to their extensive efforts to provide millions of Syrian refugees a safe haven from the ravaging war in Turkey's southern neighbor.
Wir, und das hat die deutsche Bundesregierung immer sehr deutlich gemacht, anerkennen die besondere Leistung, die die Türkei erbringt, etwa bei der Aufnahme von syrischen Bürgerkriegsflüchtlingen, ein Thema, das in Europa viel zu wenig wertgeschätzt wird. Und natürlich haben wir ein Interesse daran, über dieses Thema, so wie du es gesagt hast, mit euch in Zukunft zu sprechen.
Minister Mas went on to address contentions vis-a-vis EU-Turkey relations, which among others reached an all-time low in light of Ankara's activities in the eastern Mediterranean, where it conducted offshore exploration of natural gas in disputed waters. Nevertheless, in light of expected exploratory talks aimed to resolve the long-lasting dispute between Greece and Turkey, the German foreign minister voiced his hope for a better and more in-depth relationship between Turkey and the European Union.
Und ich würde mir sehr, sehr wünschen, dass die Beziehungen zwischen der EU und der Türkei besser werden, vertieft werden, alle Möglichkeiten und Potenziale, die es gibt, genutzt werden und dass wir das sehr, sehr nachhaltig organisieren. Jetzt geht es darum, aus den schwierigen Diskussionen des letzten Jahres herauszukommen und das gleich von Anfang an des Jahres zu machen. Und deshalb begrüßen wir ganz ausdrücklich, dass ihr die Sondierungsgespräche mit Griechenland in der nächsten Woche wieder aufnehmen wollt, mit Blick auf die Exploration im östlichen Mittelmeer. Und das ist der lang ersehnte erste Schritt in Richtung einer diplomatischen Lösung der strittigen Fragen und ein gutes Signal für die Stabilität der ganzen Region.
It is important to mention that while exploratory talks between Greece and Turkey have been scheduled for the 25th of January, tensions and mistrust continues to run high between the two neighbors. While Turkey is said to maintain naval superiority, Greece is said to have an apparent qualitative edge in aerial power. A senior defense analyst who monitors the situation in the eastern Mediterranean told TV7 that among other domestic reasons, Turkey's procurement of Russia's S-400 aerial defense system, which is not compatible with NATO systems, provides the Turkish military with much sought-after deterrence against the Hellenic Air Force. Therefore, despite voiced anger by the United States and its other NATO allies over the deployment of the Russian systems in Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan declared that no one could dictate Ankara's security-related decisions.
Bizim savunma sanayine yönelik atacağımız adımları hiçbir ülke belirleyemez. Bu tamamıyla bizim alacağımız karara bağlıdır. Biz bir NATO ülkesiyiz. NATO ülkesi olarak da NATO'da birlikte olduğumuz ülkelerin bize yön vermesini asla kabul edemeyiz.
And while Turkey is adamant on determining its own military equipment, it is seemingly frustrated with the consequences of its actions, since it led the United States to decide to abruptly end Turkey's standing order of the highly sophisticated American-made F-35 stealth fighter jets, which would have significantly bolstered Ankara's aerial capabilities.
Ve bu konuda biz çok ciddi bir parayı ödediğimiz halde F-35'ler ne yazık ki hala verilmedi. Bu tabii bizim uluslararası diplomaside Amerika'nın bir müttefik ülke olarak bize yaptığı çok ciddi bir yanlıştır.
Meanwhile, in Athens, Greek lawmakers approved the purchase of 18 Dassault-made Rafale fighter jets from France for 2.5 billion euros, equal to some 3.04 billion US dollars. According to the Greek defense minister who spoke to the parliament plenum before the vote, the procurement of the advanced French fighter jets aims to beef up the Hellenic aerial superiority amid the ongoing dispute with Turkey over energy resources in the eastern Mediterranean.
Είναι μια εθνική υπόθεση κυριολεκτικά, που καθίσταται επιτακτική λόγω της παρούσης γεωπολιτικής κατάστασης με τις πολλές και σύνθετες προκλήσεις και απειλές ασφαλείας στην ευρύτερη περιοχή μας, αλλά και λόγω της πολιτικής, της συνολικής μάλλον συμπεριφοράς της γείτονος, η οποία αμφισβητεί ευθέως κυριαρχικά μας δικαιώματα και απειλεί την ειρήνη και σταθερότητα στην Ανατολική Μεσόγειο και δείχνει...
While the vast majority of Greek lawmakers supported the procurement agreement, not everyone agreed with prioritizing the threats posed to Greece from the east.
Ούτε εμβόλιο είναι τα Ραφάλ, ούτε η λύση για όλα τα προβλήματα είναι. Αν υπάρχει ένα εμβόλιο στις ενόπλες δυνάμεις, είναι το έμψυχο δυναμικό των ενόπλων δυνάμεων, είναι οι άντρες και οι γυναίκες των ενόπλων δυνάμεων. Ναι, αυτή είναι το εμβόλιο των ενόπλων δυνάμεων και για την αδερφική ακεραιότητα της πατρίδας μας το πιο ισχυρό όπλο που διαθέτουμε. Χαράξτε στρατηγική. Γιατί τα δύσκολα είναι μπροστά μας και για το Υπουργείο Άμυνας και για τις ένοπλες δυνάμεις.
It is worth mentioning that the Greek decision to procure additional French-made fighter jets comes after the government in Athens approved a separate agreement between the Israeli and Greek ministries of defense, which includes the establishment and operation of a flight school for the Hellenic Air Force by the Israeli defense contractor Elbit Systems. It also includes the procurement of 10 M346 aircraft, the maintenance of T-6 aircraft, as well as the provision of simulators, training, and logistic support. This agreement amounts to around 1.68 billion US dollars, equal to some 1.38 billion euros, and will span over 20 years. Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join myself and the team here in Jerusalem to lift up Greece in prayer for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brethren around the world, and in addition to our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem, the salvation of Israel, for all those who are impacted by the corona contagion and its numerous ramifications worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Tov u'Mevorach, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.